Welcome everybody. This is another video on the Modern Accounting Partner series. Today's video will talk about the who of an accounting department. What roles exist in an accounting department? What tasks do they perform at a high level? So you know who to hire and what your business needs. Most businesses that speak to me think they either need a bookkeeper or a CFO, which are the extremes of the spectrum, and they rarely need that. They usually need something in between, which is obviously what we would naturally do. So before we jump in and talk about those roles, whatever you're hiring, look for common traits such as embracing change, tech savvy, comfortable working in the cloud. There are several providers out there that do that, and the traditional accountants, not the stereotype, but CPAs or just maybe individuals work from other backgrounds, tend to focus more on site, paper, systems that everybody's always used, and may not really look for the modern accounting solution, which is what we're trying to help discuss here. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right into the different roles. This isn't really an accounting department role, but I'll just start with this because it's the first extreme, which is the bookkeeper. So if you're starting out in your business, maybe you're getting up to $500,000 in revenue, maybe up to $1 million in revenue. Each business is a bit different. A bookkeeper might work. They're typically just reconciling bank and credit card statements, basic accruals like accounts receivable, accounts payable, help you pay bills, maybe run payroll, possibly sales tax returns, but more just detailed basics of cash coding or cash basis type accounting. Not necessarily going to create an accounting department integrated system solution and start advising management on what to do. That's not typically what you're going to find in a bookkeeper wheelhouse. And typically they may be part-time, so they may just work for you for a while and then just say, I got a job or I'm doing something different. So not necessarily the most reliable solution in terms of business continuity if something happens there. Now we'll go ahead and jump into what the accounting department function roles have. First one, I'll just call it a clerk. Call it AP clerk, AR clerk, typically an accounting student, maybe an intern, maybe full-time person, but generally don't have a degree in accounting. And so don't necessarily understand what's really happening on the full financial picture and both sides of an entry. They just perform that task. So it's going to be a lower level of labor cost, but also basic skills and not necessarily accounting skills. The next role up from that clerk would be an accountant. Sometimes a senior accountant, corporations have different names for that or titles for that. Probably a recent college graduate, so they'll have a decent understanding of the concepts, although maybe not the work experience to really see how that fits into the business world, and not necessarily giving you advice, but just going in and doing some of the things you would kind of call a bookkeeper doing outside of ARAP that the clerks would do. Maybe doing some analysis, looking at some data and running spreadsheets, but not necessarily going to be the financial statement generator, management consultant type person. So a lot of larger corporations, they'll have several senior accountants as well doing that. Sometimes analysts, they could be called. Then we get into a role called accounting manager. So this person now starts to come into their own. Definitely a college graduate, solid understanding of the accounting concepts of accruals, and will probably do most of the month-end close and maybe more complex accounting either interpretations or journal entries and things that an accounting department would need to do. Most business owners that I'm talking with generally need an accounting manager is really what they're looking for, not a CFO or a bookkeeper. So that's a key function that may be new to you. And then the one that more people know the title of is controller. So controller can do what an accounting manager does, but they do a little bit more. More business experience, maybe outside the box of just the financial statements, getting into budgeting and forecasting, being capable of interpreting the numbers and working with management to come up with certain actions, or working with the CFO. And that'll be our next role, or the extreme of the things I mentioned before. And the CFO is not really an accountant. They probably have a degree in accounting, but they're more finance and may have a finance degree. So they're helping with business strategy, mergers and acquisitions, restructuring, things like that, raising money for funding. That's your CFO. So they obviously interpret financial information into the strategy, but they're not going to be your best going into QuickBooks or Xero and booking journal entries and coding transactions. They're going to be way too expensive, and they're not usually good at that. So those are the main roles. And so when we're building an accounting department for our customers, there's a controller, accounting manager, accountant, bookkeeper, but we can dial it up because most small businesses below, let's say, 20 million in revenue don't have enough work to support 8 hours a day for those 4 roles. So on the outsourced accounting side, we can dial those up until the business is large enough to where they can, if they need to hire, they can now hire and have enough work to support it. Hopefully that was helpful in what you're choosing and looking for, or reach out to us if you want the outsourced team approach that I just talked about. Thank you.